Hello and welcome to another video here at Nature Affinity. Here on the channel, we help others to align with the affinity of nature. Now, in this video, my topic of discussion is going to be depression as it relates to the spiritual awakening process. I feel that there's a lot of people that are going through this right now, or have gone through this, and there's many levels to this shit. Because I had an initial spiritual awakening, or as I like to call it, or define it as, a portal was opened up to me to access more easily higher dimensional energies. This was about 2012 that this happened, about the beginning of 2012 that this happened first of all for me. But there has been a progression of different levels over the years. And that being said, a portal to higher dimensional reality is essentially getting us as humans closer and closer to who we really are. Because our energy is actually projected here into the body from higher dimensions of existence. Now, if you can really grasp that, then you probably know what spiritual depression is, or depression as it correlates to this whole process of integrating these higher dimensional energies. Because it's like, when it first happens, you get that high, like you're very high on life. You're like in that pure joy state, like I was back in 2012. I had a lot of times where no matter what was going on, my vibe was way up here. But then you come to a point where things start coming down. Like you kind of sort of have a little bit of an energetic burnout, I guess you could say, or as I'm calling it in this video, a spiritual depression. So you have the portal to open up to those higher dimensional energies. You've opened it up, you've experienced the energies to some degree, to some level in your life, and then like you're feeling that pure joy coming through you for a period of time. And then after that, you get to the point where that's not happening for you anymore. Like it's like you're just not feeling passionate about the things that you are passionate about and you know that you're passionate about. Like for me, it's getting out in the heart of nature. That's what I'm passionate about. And I've been passionate about this for my entire life. Getting out in the heart of nature. I don't care if it's raining, snowing, windy. I'm out here, breathing in the fresh air. Doesn't get any better than this. But there is a time where I lost sight of that through this process of spiritual depression. Like especially going into 2013 and onwards, I wasn't there all the time, like in that state of like that depressed energy state. Like there was like little glimpses, like, you know, like sunbeams coming through the clouds of that joyful state that I felt back in 2012. But it was, I would say predominantly, I was lower. Like I was like in that sort of lower state of being where I wasn't super excited or joyful about a lot of stuff. And I kind of wasn't really having a lot of fun, and you know, working jobs that sort of would drain me, and I was like, they weren't serving me. And so you might ask yourself, if this is you in this specific situation, you might ask yourself, okay, what am I doing wrong? Like how am I not tapping into this energy anymore? And this is what this video is all about, is that this is actually sort of like a beautiful state and one to be appreciated, because it shows you how much progress that you've made on that path of integrating the spiritual energies. And really, sometimes the best thing that you can do is just take a break. And I honestly wish that I had learned this earlier on, because it would have saved me a lot of time, and it would have made this integration process a lot easier for me. Because I'm the type of person that has no quit in me, and I feel like a lot of you are the same. That I'm going to keep going, like no matter what. But sometimes you really actively need to make that time for rest and recovery that I wasn't in my life prioritizing, and this extended the process of spiritual depression. So I was kind of in and out of that state for quite a few years. And back in 2017, when my mom went off the highway, well, that transition process that she went through made that all the more difficult for me to really feel that joy, to feel that spark of inspiration, to really get, bring those higher energies and express them out into the world. Now, that was another level to it. It's I was back and forth between that joyful state and that depressed state up until about 2017, and then my energy kind of went, it went down a lot. I went into a very, very dark state of mind, and very, very self-destructive. And I feel the day after that she went off the highway, I call up my work, right? And I'm like, I'm not coming into work. I told them and stuff, and I took a couple of weeks off of work, but it clearly, I should have taken more time off. I should have really, at that point, valued my time a little bit more to really integrate that higher dimensional energy, because I feel that I would not have suffered nearly as much had I done so. And honestly, the only good reason for anybody to suffer is if it teaches them how to stop suffering. That's the only value in suffering, as far as I'm concerned. And with that being said, I was in that dark state of mind for quite a while. I was working my job, and I was waking up in the morning, but I wasn't bringing the joy. I was kind of just going through the motions. I knew, I'm I can't take more money or more time off because the mortgage needs to get paid and all this and that and blah, blah, blah. All these kind of things that say, oh, I don't, I can't take time off right now, but you have to make time for yourself to rest, recover, and integrate those energies. So fast forward a little bit to 2019, the end of 2019. I was working this job for this company, and they were really not treating me with a lot of respect or appreciation for what I was doing for them. Because I do my job to the best of my abilities. If I'm given a job to do, I will do it to the highest standard that I possibly can. And I also, at the time they were like, oh, there'll be work coming, but there wasn't. And so the contractor, one of the contractors that I was working for, they actually had a job down on the other side of this island that I live on. It's a pretty big island. It's 600 kilometers long. And so they got this other company to come in and do this job for them, right? On the highway. And so the company calls me up and they're like, yo, Seth, you want to work down in Victoria? And I'm 3 3/4 hours drive away from Victoria is where my house is. And so I didn't have a plan. I didn't know how it was going to turn out, but I had faith. I said, okay, things are going to work out for them the best ways possible. So I took the job, and I started to tap into that joyful state again, because I had that faith. Through the beginning months of 2020 up until COVID started, I had that faith that things were going to work out for the best way possible for me, and things were working out. Like, I stayed with my cousin for a couple of months, and then after that I found another place to stay very easily. Like, I didn't even have to look for it, it just showed up. They're like, yo, you want a place to stay? I'm like, actually, I do need a place to stay. So yes I do. And I was bringing the joy for that first couple of months, but when COVID hit, like, I kind of lost track of that, and I went back into that spiritual depression. So this is like another layer to it. But it's like every layer that you go through, when you can really, through that, like the previous job not giving me any work for a while, it actually gave me that time to just chill and integrate, right? That's what you got to do. You got to chill and integrate that higher dimensional energy. Otherwise you will have that spiritual burnout, or you will have that depletion in your energy. That's what depression is. It's a depletion in your energy. You don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel jazzed up, or you're not bringing the joy. Like, you're just in your head, and you're like, you're just not feeling it in general. So later on in 2020, like, it kind of went on through 2020, that sort of lower energy of depression and burnout, because I was working like 10, 11, 12 hours a day, and then on the weekend I would drive up island, you know, racking all these kilometers up on my car. Like, I would drive like at least 2.5 hours to go to where my partner Crystalline lives in Cumberland, and I would go there, and then sometimes I would even like go from there, go back to my house. Like, I had it rented out at the time, thankfully, so the mortgage was paid for me, as I was renting out this room in Victoria. But it's like that's a recipe for burnout. Like, there's no time for rest and recovery in there. It's like I was like 5 days a week I was down in Victoria working. On the weekend I was driving, like sometimes getting time to hang out with people and do stuff, but there was no time for my own personal rest and recovery, and therefore my energy was depleted. So with that being said, in 2021, in my personal experience, I got about a couple months into 2021, the people that I was staying with, they came up to me the one day after work, and they started panicking because the landlord was going to sell their house, right? So they got their eviction notice in the mail and all this kind of stuff. And at the time, since I was working, I had saved up quite a bit of money in the bank. And so I was like, okay, there's another option here. What if I buy this place? And so that's exactly what I did. And that was like another thing. Like, on the weekends I was working at that. Like, I was on the phone like every time I was on break at work, trying to get all that paperwork done. It was very draining, very depleting. And I actually left Victoria after making the purchase of that house and went back up closer to my house, because I got synchronously lined up with another job, right? Because like there was that underlying faith that I still had. Like, that was what brought me through all of this and gave me that power to continue, even though I was depleted in energy, was that faith to just like, I put it up to my higher self, and I'm like, okay, things are going to work out in the best way possible. And no matter how frustrated I am with these people, and no matter how irritated or drained I feel right now, it's all going to be for the best. And this is like, it's almost like the process of like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. Like, it's not a beautiful process. Like, the caterpillar goes into the pupa and then liquefies itself, and then like it comes together into the shape of the butterfly. But like, in between the caterpillar shaping into the butterfly, it's not a pretty process, and neither is spiritual depression, but it's beautiful because it's part of that integration process, and you really just have to have that faith in your higher self, in the universe, that everything is going to work out in the best way possible for you. And it did for me, because that job lined up for me to go back home and stop like spending all that time driving every single weekend. And through that, like, I was still working long hours, but on the weekend I was able to just chill and hang out at my house, you know, breathe in the fresh air out in nature more often. And as the time progressed, like through the summer of 2021 into the fall of 2021, I didn't actually get that time to integrate that higher dimensional energy that was coming through that portal to me. And through that, when it came to winter, then the work started to slow down, right? Because most of the time, like, I work in construction, I work on the highway. In the summer, spring, summer, fall is where most of the work happens. When it goes into the winter, a lot of times it'll slow down and you actually have some time off to be left to your own devices. In this case, time for me to integrate and sync up with that higher dimensional energy and actually just have that rest and recovery time. Like, literally, the first week that I had off, I was sleeping probably like 14 hours a day for like 3 or 4 days. And I'd wake up like super late and go to bed super early. Like, I was just like, whoosh, done. I was integrating the energy, right? And coming to the end of 2021 into 2022, I was starting to see that joy again. Like, little glimpses through the clouds. Starting to feel that joy coming in. Those downloads coming in from my higher self saying everything's going to be okay. And as we move forwards in 2022, it's like the clouds have parted. Like, I was able over the winter to have that time to integrate the energy, and now I'm in the position where I can share with you my experience with this spiritual depression, and how if you are feeling this way, take the time to rest and recover. Take the time to really integrate that energy. Close your eyes and look within. You will gain your clarity from turning your focus inwards. And if I had done this much earlier in my journey, I would have not gone through so much suffering. But it took the time that it took, right? For me to actually go through that journey. And, you know, it's worth it. It's 100% worth it to really get to that place where the clouds part and the sun shines on your life again. And you wake up in the morning and you're like, I'm bringing the joy, and nobody and nothing can take that away. And that's where I am now. I'm bringing the joy every single day, breathing in that beautiful air out here in nature. And if you're wondering, up in the corner, that was my rain jacket. It's raining quite a bit, so I have my jacket actually over top of the camera so it doesn't get wet. I'm like, perfect. And that's another example of how things worked out perfectly, because I just had enough jacket to pull it over and it not be in the way, and then the wind kind of pushed it. So you guys got to see it a little bit. But that's my setup, is basically my tripod with my jacket over top of it. So, with that being said, gain your clarity from within. Just spend some time on self-reflection. Give yourself the permission to be still. There's no need for you to be doing busy work all the time. There's no need for you to be rushing around all the time. Give yourself that permission to be still and embrace the integration of this higher dimensional energy that's coming through the portal. That's collectively coming through the portal more and more now. And it's becoming easier and easier for people to gain access to this higher dimensional energy that we are already. This is where we came from, is higher dimensions. Because once again, our energy is projected here into this body, into this physical reality that we see, feel, and touch. But we are not of this world. We are projected here. We are projected here to make a new world, to really integrate that new earth energy, that higher vibrational frequency. Because I believe that the actual frequency resonance of the planet is raising. And through that, like, for us being here, we're collectively raising our frequency. And the more time that we spend integrating that energy, the less time we're going to spend suffering. And with that being said, I'm going to finish my hike. Enjoy another beautiful day in paradise. Peace.